Okay, class. Today's demo. The assignment is it's your first soldering assignment where we're going to attach two pieces of copper wire. We're going to cut it in half first, and then we're going to solder them back together. And this is going to get you to where you can do hot connections for your pendant project. First thing you need to know, right here, this cupboard or this drawer right here, these are called flush cutters. These are super important. You need these, and you're going to come down here to the metal drawer, which is the bottom drawer of the top section, and you're going to pull it out real, pretty solid so that it stays out. Otherwise, the lid is going to fall down on your hands. That's not very fun. What you're going to look for in here, these spools of wire here, this is called copper solder, and it is very important for copper work. And what you're looking for is, just in case there are any small scraps. This is just as good as off of here, but we want to find the smallest scrap we can. Even if there are 3 or 4 of you working on this together, you want to get just a small piece. So cut off about 1 inch and keep track of it. And we're just going to set this aside for a second, the solder. Now down here in the bottom section of the toolbox, there is a roll of wire. If I can get it untangled. And look for the end here. And this is all pretty bent up here on the end, so I'm just going to trim this off. That's okay to do, and just throw away the scrap. Now you want a fairly straight piece. Doesn't have to be real particular, but about 2 inches long. Now these cutters will cut just fine. Just hold on to it and then copper back in the drawer. Put it away. Grab your copper tong or copper solder, flush cutters. Your 2-inch piece of copper wire, which is 12 gauge. Remember, this guy right here is going to help you to measure that. Remember, it's the gap. Okay. You're also going to grab a set of files. We'll head over here to the bench pin. Okay. So now we're here at the bench pin, and we want to prep our wire. Now this wire, we want to cut it right about in half. So we're going to hold on to both pieces, because the one piece that you're not holding on to will fly if you're not careful. So now what I'm doing is I've cut it in half, and now I am going to cut this other side off so that I'll show you here real quick. Right here, if we zoom in just a little bit, right here you can see how one end of this wire is pointed and the other is flat. We want 2 flat ends. So I need to trim off this side. I'm just going to put this other piece to the side here. I'm going to use my flush cutters. I don't want to cut off a whole bunch, but just enough. Put my finger here. Don't get your finger in the end here, because they will cut you, and that's sad. So you're just keeping track of this tag end, so when you cut it, it doesn't end up in somebody's clay in a Swan's class. So I've set that aside. Now I've got that cut off. There's a little line there you can see right in the middle. We need to file that off. So now what you're going to do, take one of these one at a time. You get a file. This particular file is great because it's flat on both sides and has a fairly aggressive tooth, and you'll be able to catch what's going on here real well. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm bracing this on the inside of the bench pin, and I'm going to file just that edge off. Remember, only push. That cut stroke is only on the push. So I'm pushing, lifting it off. Now if I get into filing the bench pin a little bit, that's okay. So now I'll do the other one here real quick. all we're doing is getting that nice and flat. Okay, now what we're going to do is take our metal right over here and we're going to put it in the pickle pot. That's going to clean off the oils from our skin on the metal. We're going to leave that in for just about a minute. Alright, once it's been in there for about a minute, then what you're going to do is reach in here with the copper tongs and you're just going to rinse these off. You can grab a paper towel and just set them on it. But do me a favor, do everyone a favor, and don't leave the paper towel sitting here. Okay, throw it away. Now I want to observe where I'm soldering, and I can grab the other end. Okay, and this one is right here. So these two ends right here are where I'm going to be soldering. So we are ready. As you can see, the end there is they're polished nice and smooth from the file, which is great. So now we go into soldering room. Now we're in here in the soldering on the soldering station, and you can see that I've got my metal on my soldering block here, and we want to get this set up. So what we need to do first is open the flux. The flux is going to help make the solder flow where we want it to. And so I'm going to reach up here and I'm going to grab, I'll show you, a brush. I'm going to grab the brush from where the tools are up here and grab that. And then reach in here and I'm going to get just a little bit of this flux. Now flux, you can't do this without. I'm just going to put a little bit on that end and a little bit on this end right here. Again, I haven't touched the end of the metal with my fingers. Now I'm going to put the brush back. I'm going to cover the flux back in the container, and now I'm going to line this up so that it will be exactly where I want it. If they're not touching, it will not work. Okay, this right here is called a soldering pick or solder pick, and it's made of titanium, and it will melt with this with these torches, and so we don't want to abuse this thing with the torch. Okay, so I went and got my cutters. These don't necessarily have to be the flush cutters, but it's fine if they are. And what you're going to do is just cut a small piece of this off, and what it will look like is just like that. I'm going to cut another one off and zoom real close in so you can see exactly what's happened. I'm going to cut just a little piece off. You can see how much I'm using here. It's probably less than 1/8 of an inch. And then I'll just set it here. I've got a couple there. It's off camera, sorry about that. Okay, so I've got a couple pieces there. I'll set those aside, and I don't want to get them any closer to this than I have to because we want to not melt them. Okay, I'm going to zoom out, show you the torch real quick. This is our torch, and there are 3 sets of torch tips, or three torch tips. This one is the biggest one. It is a number 1, and it is entirely too big for what you're doing. Now, what you would want to do is get the number 1 goes here, number 0 goes here, and 00 or 00 goes here. I would say a number 0 will work just fine here. And we want to make sure the gas is on. And what you want to watch for when you're turning the gas on is that this knob right here is just, it's painted green. You just want that to turn just a quarter turn. So it's off now. Turn it just a quarter turn until it's green. Okay, so we're all set up. You can kind of see what we're doing here, what it looks like. Now let's light the torch and do this. I'm going to move this. I'm right-handed, so I like having torch in my, I like having the solder pick in my right hand and the torch in my left. So what I'm going to do here is so I want you to be able to see those pieces of solder. Okay, I want you to be able to see those pieces of solder. And you come in here just real careful, and I'm just going to melt that piece of solder until it turns into a ball. So again, just until it turns into a ball. Now, as it's glowing red, I can reach in here and I can pick up that piece of solder with my solder pick, just like that, right there. And see how it's stuck to the end of that, right there. Okay, now I'm going to bring this in carefully and try not to lose my solder. It can fall off the end of your pick there. So there it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly heat all of this metal. So I'm just going to move it back and forth. And so I'm just heating this just like this. And you'll start to see that rainbow go through the metal. That is called annealing. Okay. And this has come a little bit. Okay. And that means that it's getting pretty hot. The molecules in the metal are starting to realign, which is fun. And now this is getting to where it's pretty warm, and I'm going to reach in here. I'm going to put my solder where I want it to go, place it there, and then I'm going to zero in here. And then my solder is just melted. There it went. Right there. You can see where the solder is melted, and you can see that that is all moving as one piece, which is great. So now I can extinguish my torch, hang it up. Now, don't touch that. All right, so now I need to go get the copper tongs so that I can grab this and go put it in the pickle. Some people will try to grab it with these cutters. Don't do that, because these are not meant to get hot, and there's a lot of heat still in that piece of metal. So while it is cooling, I'm going to go put some things away, and let's go put that in the pickle. Here we go. Grab a tong. Like this. And we'll let that sit there for just a minute or two. Grab it out. Rinse it off. I can grab it now. And if I have done it correctly, then when I bend this, just like that, didn't break. It stayed as one. It's nice together. What you want to do is at this point, take a picture of this and submit it to the soldering assignment.